February 3, 2019. Doing the Work of Love. Neil Worthington. Licensed Unity teacher and spiritual leader at Unity of Payson, Arizona.
I'm sure you know a lot about love. About it all the time. Do you love mommy or daddy? Mommy, daddy loves you. You love it very early. But I'm going to suggest that love is maybe a little more than you have in your memory, and I'd like to share some things with you this morning. Let me begin by my theme, which you see. I think you see. Love is the absolute nature of truth. It is not, however, enough to know and understand truth. We must live the truth by doing the work of love. We do this by employing our spiritual connection to fulfill our purpose. We do this by including and serving all of creation in its wondrous diversity. So, work of love. Isn't love supposed to be fun and gushy feeling and play? Sometimes. But sometimes also there's a work of love, and I'd like us to investigate doing the work of love this morning. Let me start here. Who knows this guy? Almost everybody. The Dalai Lama. Actually, his name is Lhamo Phantra. It's difficult for me to say the Tibetan name. The Dalai Lama was born into the family of a farmer, a very poor farmer. And he was birthed on a straw mat and was in his mother's loving arms for 2 years until his life began to change. The 13th Dalai Lama had passed, and the 14th was being looked for. And in that Tibetan Buddhist tradition, they looked for the child that was to be the reincarnation of the 13th Lama. Now, they had various ways to seek out the possibilities, but when it got down to it, the question was, does this group of artifacts from the 13th Lama, and there were a group of artifacts in front of the child, at this point, the Dalai Lama that we know, 2 years old, and the child who could pick out among a number of objects exactly and only the ones that were artifacts from the 13th Dalai Lama was considered. Sounded like a good pointer that he would be the 14th Dalai Lama. And so what happened with, I'm going to say it again, Lhamo Phantra, as he became the Dalai Lama. He stayed with his family for a few years yet, until he was 6. And he learned what we know him for. So if you could say one word that you know about the Dalai Lama, what's the Dalai Lama all about? Compassion. Love and compassion. Definitely. The two things that we see often in his writings, the 70 books that he's written. But he learned that love and that compassion from his mother, he says. In the agricultural pursuits, as she's walking in the fields, he would sit on her shoulder and he would take her ears and steer her one way or another. And that memory for him was such a loving connection. It really set the stage for life. So not only might we consider the reincarnation and the role that he came to play, but also the role of his physical family in the development of love. I want to just share a couple of things that he said, because they're going to sound vaguely familiar. And here are a few of his quotes. By the way, that was the role of the Dalai Lama, the role of compassion, and the role of bringing together the community, because he lived in a diverse community, even in Tibet. And he then began to look at the world and bringing the world together. So here's what he has to say about love and compassion. Love and compassion are necessities, not luxuries. Without them, humanity cannot survive. Another time he said, happiness is not something ready-made. It comes from your own actions. So he began that outward expression of love. Compassion is the radicalism of our time, he said. And then he turned inward. Something was really good. As you breathe in, cherish yourself. As you breathe out, cherish all beings. And then we can never obtain peace in the outer world until we make peace with ourselves. Then as we embark on our discussion of doing the work of love, I like this one short quote. Love is the absence of judgment. Love is the absence of judgment. Let's turn now to unity and what we hear there. We may find many parallels to the experience of the Dalai Lama. You know, we've been working on a 12 powers wall, and that one of the 12 powers, the abilities that we have as humans, is the ability or the power of love. And here's how it's simply defined: to attract, to harmonize, and to unify. The power of love. Our co-founder, Charles Fillmore, compiled a metaphysical Bible dictionary and also a book called The Revealing Word, which gives us an idea of looking beyond what we normally think of, and that's what we're going to do today. We're looking a little bit beyond what we normally think of love. Here's what he had to say about love. The pure essence of being that binds together the human family. In divine mind, love is the power that joins and binds in divine harmony the universe and everything in it, the great harmonizing principle known to man. Some of you may have talked about energy as love is energy, the energy of the universe. In fact, everything's springing from love. This was also Charles Fillmore's take on it. And then, more recently, one of our Unity writers, Ellen Davenport, in the 5 principles, and some of you will be sitting today and will be considering some of the principles of unity as you get back to some of the unity basics. Ellen Davenport says this: having looked at that inner aspect of love, she says there's an outer one too. What is mine to do? She says. How am I to serve? I have come to this human experience not just for myself, but for others. And I stand ready to share God's love with them. This love expresses through me and in me. So we've looked at 2 kinds of love. The Dalai Lama experience and some unity teachings about love. I'd like to look today to 3 ways that we can characterize love that are looking beyond, or looking a little bit beyond what we may know about love. Number 1, inside out. Love is an inside out. Remember in that saying of Charles Fillmore that love is the very essence of who we are. Well, it's inside before it's outside. And so when we begin to think about being loving or expressing love, we need to start on the inside. I have a confession, and I've had to work with this morning. I woke this morning, I was angry. I didn't really know what I was angry at. Yes, one cat was meowing persistently for food. Another cat was banging on the door. I couldn't find my cell phone. I was angry. I just was angry. So I tried for just a little bit before I remembered to search for the cell phone to get the cats in the right place. And then I realized that probably what was happening out there was a reflection of what was going on in me. And so even up until this time when I stand here to speak with you, I've been in the process of, from within, discovering that love is there. Sometimes that means to choose not to react to a negative circumstance. Sometimes it means not to blame somebody. Sometimes it means just to be quiet and to find the love that is the essence of who I am. So, some hugs that you all gave me. I needed those hugs this morning. And the song, the pre-meditation song, just touched me in your meditation. Allowed me to do some work on the inside. Because before I get around to saying, if this world is going to be right, or if my world is going to be right, it's got to happen like this. And let me get on with it. I'm going to do the work to make it happen. I need to be inside to say, I'm going to realize who I really am. And come from that place. If I'm finding fault with something in the wider world or something in my narrow world, probably reflects something of who I am. And working on being love for myself is probably the biggest thing that I can do. Sometimes it doesn't always seem logical, but I believe it can be so. So character of love is first an inside-out thing. Once you're inside, that's the place where inspiration comes. Have you ever been swinging in a swing, or maybe even taking a shower or walking in nature, and something just came to you, you were inspired. You just, it was there suddenly. It came from within. And it was an inspired thing. Or perhaps you have a meditation practice where you actually go into the silence. You spend time. When you come out of that, you're inspired. Something that's not your usual physical you in this physical world came forth. Maybe it's when you wake up first thing in the morning, something comes to you. Well, that's it. The inspiration has to happen first. Again, I didn't know it was going to be confession time this morning, but it is okay. I have been prone to working harder than anybody else. I'm going to get it done. Guess what? I've knocked my head against a lot of brick walls, and I haven't achieved the results that I want. But I realize that when I act from inspiration, that divine inspiration that just infuses me when I can sit back and let it happen, then I can go outside. Then I can put myself to work. Then I know what to do, where to put my efforts. And I encourage you to do that as well. Probably some of you already have that practice. Maybe you're a little further along in getting there quickly. Then one other character of love is persistence that outlasts resistance. So remember, we started in that inside place, and we use inspiration, but at some point in that we have to get past resistance. Sometimes it's a resistance that's within me, and sometimes it's a resistance that seems to be out there. I'm not sure that it's just not one mirroring the other. But when we're able to get back get past that resistance, then we can persist, but not before. So, letting go of a novel concept. Sometimes we just have to let go of something. It may mean that we back away from something we just think, I gotta do this, or this is the way it's got to be, or maybe it's just I'm a little scared. What if I do that? What if I take that chance? When we're able to let go, even to forgive perhaps someone that we have resentment for, then we're set to be able to effectively persist. And that's where we go next. And I think that's our challenge. I know it's my challenge. You know how what you put your mind on is what eventually shows up in your life. I'm going to suggest that after you've spent time within, after you've felt that inspiration, after you've let go of that resistance, then persistence is really effective. So, I think that sometimes we go about 90% of the way to where we want to be. We have this desire, and we know desire, all desire somehow comes from the divine. I think you said it one time, desire, of the Father, in a more traditional language. Desire is there, it's a good thing. But we go 90% of the way to our desire. We hold that thought, we imagine it in our minds. We say it's not working. And we drop. So we don't persist to the point of achieving or manifesting in our lives what it is that we truly desire. So I'm suggesting those three things, those three characters of love. So we're looking at love a little differently, right? And then I want to leave you with some questions. They relate to those three things. Ask yourself this: have I done my inner work? Have I been in the quiet? Have I prayed? Have I spent time with myself? Have I forgiven myself even? Have I been compassionate to myself? Do that inner work. Have I done my inner work? So ask yourself that question on a regular basis. Number 2. Oh, I'm looking at these here. We'll make it the second or third time. I have some help in doing this. Do my efforts come from my heart? Oh, one more. There. Thank you. Do my efforts come from my heart? It's so easy for me to have my efforts come from my head or from my physical strength. I'm a pretty strong guy, and couldn't get it done. But do my efforts come from my heart? Because it's that heart that, even sometimes that belly, that sense part of us, that is where intuition comes from. Knowledge is great. Intuition trumps it, if you will. That intuition is a sure guide to a knowing of the divine and the divine desire. That is my head. So do my efforts come from my heart? And thirdly, can I both let go? Sometimes we're hung up for days or months or even years on something. Thank you. We're going to get a monitor up there so I can see what I'm looking at in the future. So, can I both let go? Can I just not keep that around? Can I not stay in my pain? You know, we keep stuff around that we resent or that we can't forgive. and His sons, we do. Can I let go? Can I let go of my bullheaded way that it's got to be my way? Can I both let go? And can I stay the course? Do not be weary in well-doing. And we remember that from the Christian scriptures in the book of Galatians. Because we'll have our desires, and we don't fall out on them. Stay the course. So I encourage you this morning to do the work of love, starting on the inside and working your way out. And so it is.
Jeez, he showed you.